No, we might not have time.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, how about now?
That's fine.
I think it might be a bit of a delay.
Yeah, so you have the
Text.
antenna like it'll be the best illuminate site. So you
Okay.
have it like
Yeah,
here.
yeah, no. Me? Okay. Okay. Is the live stream live? All right. Let me put this on. Actually, I don't know if people can.
Yeah,
see me.
audio.
Woo! Excellent. Yeah. All right. So sorry about that. There's a bit of a delay, and there's actually a little bit of an echo right now. But we're joining with you right now from the back of Building 14. I'm here with Dylan, and we're kind of we had a few issues setting up, but everything is going pretty good now. So we are not launching the full scale rocket, but we have someone here talking about the third scale rocket, and yeah. So I think. Do you want to show it?
You want it on the screen? I'm just gonna hand it.
So we're gonna bring the rocket into view for you. Just a little bit farther back.
I don't have the mic, but
A little bit further back.
So
it
I'll
should
let
still
you
pick you up.
okay. So this is the full scale design that the team came up with. So it was going to fly on an I-540 motor with a predicted apogee of 2,000 feet. The idea was that the glider would deploy at apogee and then fly back down. I'm assuming you guys already talked to that a little bit. No?
No, please.
Okay. Well, and Jacob's here with avionics. If you want to chime in any with what the glider is going to do, the rocket's pretty simple. It's just going to boost it to 2,000 feet and then fall away and fall under its own parachute. So.
Sure. So the glider itself, we designed it to be somewhat autonomous. We have two computers that are inside it. We have an Arduino Nano and a Raspberry Pi. Now, initially, we had the Raspberry Pi with the Pi camera attached to it to downlink some video footage for the live stream today. But actually, we're using that camera to record the launch pad right now. And we had the Nano inside, which had a giant switch statement in it that would put the actual the glider into a different state of flight. So we had sensors on board that would detect a large acceleration. We'd move it over to a boost state. Then after a timer went off, we would actually try to control some of the control surfaces that were on board the glider itself. We have 3 servos that are on board that control these 2 little side fins, and there's one hidden behind this side over here. And we had a camera on board. It was a Pixie Cam that we used to try to scan the sky for the rocket itself. You'll notice the rocket is colored this very bright orange color. We were trying to find that color in the sky and perform what we called a corkscrew maneuver around it as it fell down. This was basically just a trail around the rocket and try to keep them within that same area space. But yeah, we're not going to launch this today. We have a smaller scale one that we're going to use for that. And I think I'll toss it back over to you, Jimmy. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah. So right now we're gonna bring in Robin with the scale model rocket. And but before we start talking about that, you might notice there's a small picture-in-picture view to the left, and that's what we're using right now to stream from the glider actually. So it's a RF transmitter set up to the Raspberry Pi, and right now we have a view of the launch pad. So
At
I
100
think
yards away.
we're not gonna switch to that yet,
I can make it.
but we'll use that to show the rocket launch a bit better. But right now I'll pass it to Robin.
Yeah, obviously this rocket isn't as big as the one you just saw. It is a scale model. We are launching something very experimental, so we want to see how launching a glider with a fixed wing would behave with the various pressures of ascent. So we're going to launch a scale model a few different times just to see if it'll go into a stable flight. That way we can verify that our large rocket will be successful when it launches. So we're actually going to be doing that pretty soon. Just a note on the large rocket, so our plan again is to launch the large rocket to just below 2,000 feet. The booster separates at apogee and deploys a parachute. Then the glider would be gliding around, and eventually once it gets down to 500 feet, the glider would automatically deploy a parachute to slow itself down there too, so we don't have to focus on autonomous landing. So we're about to launch the scale model. We'll see how that one goes. So thank you.
Cool.
Let's go.
All right. So
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for joining us again. We had an hour delay or so, so I'm not sure if you guys have been waiting for quite a bit, but thank you so much. We have a big crowd here today. It's not too hot. Hopefully, it doesn't rain very soon. And yeah, if we didn't already describe it, the rocket right now is it's called the Flying Squirrel and the Acorn. The rocket is a glider on top of a booster, and the design was that when it reaches the height of the apogee, the glider will just separate and autonomously glide down. But there is some issues with that, just in terms of safety. So we are doing the scale model now, which is essentially the same thing, just a third of the size. There is a glider on there as well. So right now we're just getting updates, and if you just stand by just a little bit longer.
Orlando, post that in the Slack that we've switched over to.
Yeah. But
we can stand by.
okay.
We're gonna go to
We're gonna
standby.
go to standby.
Not that 8 of us are right here. But you not that 8 of them are right here on the phone. Probably right.
The launch one is still.
South and Facebook. So
They might still be able to hear us, but.
I don't know the answer to
Okay.
that.
Now we're live again.
Connor, I don't know the answer to that. But yeah.
So now we're audio should be going through, and you should see right now the view from the launch pad. And there's someone's foot next to it right now, but no, not anymore. Okay.
It's the wrong one because he's over there. It needs to be rotated.
Yeah, we have to move it.
Yeah, wait, can you tell Connor to bring the Raspberry Pi to the other side? Because we can actually do the other side now. Now that's actually better line of sight.
Okay.
Connor, can you move the Raspberry Pi to the other side?
What you're seeing right now is that should be the rocket right now being set up.
So the team is currently at the launch pad with the launch director, and they are currently setting it up in preparation for our launch today. As we had said earlier, we had been delayed for an hour, partly due to weather and partly due to setting up the live stream. We've had the opportunity to see a couple launches today. Some very small scale, some medium scale, and we actually had a couple flyovers from some F-18s from Edwards, or from Ellington.
I'm gonna put us back up on picture in picture shortly. Okay.
Are we getting a lot of wind feedback?
A little bit. So now,
Really need all these water bottles here.
there we go. That's a little bit better. And that's right there.
Yeah.
Transition. Okay.
So once again, you guys are tuning in to a launch here at JSC, Johnson Space Center. We are at the airstrip behind Building 14, and this will be a launch of the Intern space program. Jimmy, you want to talk a little bit about the Flying Squirrel and Acorn again?
Sure. Yeah. You can kind of see there at the top. It looks a little interesting. It's the very top in gray is the glider itself. It is part of the nose cone. The bottom part, well, once it gets to apogee, it'll separate and glide down. And at this point, it's just a glider because the electronics are not completely on there like they would be normally. And we're just getting an announcement from the launch director. And what we could probably do is also turn this around once the launch goes so we can get another angle.
So we're going to give you an angle.
Multiple views.
They're gonna launch quick, so get it ready. See the pad if you can.
You see the launch pad. So the large view right now is from directly on the launch pad, which is a little fuzzy.
We're gonna do a countdown here.
They're preparing for countdown here for launch.
All right, up it goes. It's going to go about 280 to 300 feet high. And down it comes with a parachute.
Deploying.
So we have successful parachute deployment, and we have successful safe landing.
Yeah, now we have to get.
This has been an intern space program launch. The flight crew is currently separating.
The view you have right now on the side is of the launch pad from far away, so you can see the large group of people watching it right now. But we are currently finding the rocket right now in recovery. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
So we'll be cutting to some interviews after the launch of this successful Acorn and Flying Squirrel. So stay tuned for some interviews from the flight team.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, the launch is fairly short, but it worked great, so we're excited about that. And we're going to be continuing working on the full-scale model of the Flying Squirrel for the fall. So stay tuned for that. If you stay subscribed to this channel, we'll post more videos on there. But it's pretty much it's well into development, so they have a good start on getting fully working. And we'll show a little demo of the glider itself in a little bit, so you can see how it looks and how it moves and all the little servos on there. And I think that's pretty much it. I think we might switch so you can still see the launch pad there, which is it's a pretty nice view.
So we have the recovery team, and they're out in the field just beyond the launch pad, and they are recovering the acorn and the flying squirrel. So we are waiting for feedback on the successful landing, and we'll hopefully be able to give you guys a first-hand look after the launch. So the camera's moving, and we actually just lost the feed briefly.
Oh, look, Raspberry Pi. We'll switch back to what we had before. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, what do you think?
I think it's a very exciting day here at JSC. It's not every day that you have the opportunity to come out here on such a beautiful day like today, once the rain kind of moved away, and have the opportunity to see a rocket launch. Typically you see rocket launches at Kennedy Space Center, but today we had the Intern space program giving us a beautiful display of ingenuity here at Johnson Space Center.
And one of the ways we could do this launch too is we got to join the rocketry club here at JSC, the non-intern rocketry club. They were doing a few launches earlier, and they do it the first of the month. And if that's something you're interested in, but we're launching with them, so that's earlier we got to see pretty nice launches. Some really nice.
So we actually are having another launch. We're going to turn around. And that one's one of the medium speed.
Interesting.
So this one is high up in the sky.
Let's see if we can find this.
Sun. We have lost it in the clouds. We don't see shoots yet, but we're waiting for confirmation. It's well over Rocket Park, and we do have good shoots. I see the orange parachute. So it looks currently, like I said, at an altitude of over 1,000.
Let's see if we can get a view of that. This is going to be tricky.
So what you're looking for is an orange parachute with the nose cone draping just below it, and the first stage towering below it roughly about 4 to 6 feet. We have the GoPro videos.
This should be the correct color.
I think so.
And orientation.
So we are still tracking this rocket. It is not on the ground yet. We might have the opportunity to see this rocket land on a building, which would be another first for JSC. And it looks like we're going to have a successful landing in the grass just beyond the airfield behind Building 14. And we have touchdown. So now the skies are clear, and they are preparing for the next launch.
Is the signal setting this way?
Yeah. Well, I think we will recorded the launch with the GoPro, so we might be able to get that on the screen for you in a few. But we're still waiting. We'll be doing the interviews. If you want to see the way the rocket is right now, this is the final view.
Yeah, no damage. Came out pretty nicely.
Nice.
Yeah, the glider is disconnected right now, but it survived also.
Nice. Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Connor.
So again, we want to thank the Rocket Club here for the opportunity to launch here. Without their assistance, this launch brought to you by the Intern Space Program may not have been possible.
But yeah. Do you want to do the interview?
We can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I already did mine.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah. So we had the avionics subgroup come out earlier, and we'll try to get the rest of it right now. They're currently still celebrating near the launch pad. I think there's going to be another launch. Are they going to launch it? That is huge. Let's see if we can get that on video.
The rocket we're looking at currently is about 4.5 feet tall, including nose cone. So I've just been informed that that's a rocket that actually launched earlier while we were in preparations of setting up our live stream.
Looks like it's in great shape.
High cam again. We can get some reception right here.
Yeah.
And then we're not.
Or is it, are you on the second one?
So we still have
I'm trying
a
to
stream from the launch pad. It seems to be going out now.
I'm gonna do it upright like this. Let me go over and sit down.
Friends, definitely. But it's been a pretty good day. It's really not hot today. It's really windy, which is really nice because otherwise Houston is almost unbearable.
The wind's also been nice. Most of the rockets have gone straight up, and under parachute has allowed them to drift and land into a soft landing area in the grass. It looks like currently we have a few people doing some aerodynamic testing of the payload, doing a few tosses into the grass. We do have a chance of rain coming in here as the hour counts down. So we just want to give you guys that are tuning in a slight warning for that. But we still hope to be able to do some interviews with the launch team prior to that rain coming in.
I'm gonna get in front of the camera. Like that.
So it looks like the recovery team is slowly walking over. And it looks like we had a successful recovery of our payload.
Let me
So
show
we'll
the team
be
right now.
bringing that.
Wave to the cameras.
We're gonna go for a second launch.
So you heard it first here. The successful launch has primed for a second launch. So this second launch, they are going to try it without parachute. This will be a separation of the glider. So again, this has been brought to you by the Intern Space Program. We are here at Johnson Space Center behind Building 14 at the old airstrip. So Jimmy, tell us how this all got started.
It's really interesting. I think there's been an unofficial rocket shoot committee, maybe over the last year or so, but we officially started it last spring or this last spring, and it's been really interesting. We might show some of the images actually right now while we're waiting of the previous launch. It was a lot simpler, and you're gonna see right now on the screen. This was the launch. I want to say it was in May or so, And that is the previous rocket that we had right there. It's a lot simpler, no glider on it. It's just a regular old rocket with a parachute in it. But it was really interesting. It's one of the few committees that allows us to work on something hands-on. Um, so it's been one of my favorites so far. You can see there the same launch pad, and there seems to be a fire in the background. But it was fine. It was somewhere else.
It was not caused by us.
Yeah, it was not us. And there's also an image there, though it's a little bit flipped on the side. Um, Same area, same launch site, right behind Building 14. It's a pretty nice area. There's a lot of space, a lot of grass. A few clubs come to visit here, and there is a RC plane club that is just down the runway. Um, but usually we try to stay within our own little area. And that is the previous launch pad right there that you see. Some of the same members of the rocketry committee that were in the spring are also here in the summer. And it's been a great experience. This summer I was actually running the public affairs side of the rocketry committee, as you can see right now. But in the spring I was actually working on the avionics part. I'm actually electrical engineering by background, so I did the power board for the rocket, and I did not do very much technically um, this summer, which is fine actually. It gave me a little bit more time. But oh, you can see right now that's my breadboard that got burned on the launch pad in the spring. And
so what are you doing now?
yeah. So
Okay.
So we
We're getting
have the
good feed.
PAO committee setting up the
I'm gonna.
camera again for the second launch. So Jimmy, should we talk to some folks here that watch the launch?
we should do that.
Feed's
Absolutely.
breaking up a little bit.
Do some interviews.
Natalie's definitely. You guys want to come over and do an interview?
Feed is good.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna bring over some people that watch launch and let them tell you from their experiences watching it live. Yeah, come on over here. We got some fellow interns coming over here. Oh, they're running away.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine.
Well, maybe if we don't name them, they won't run away. They're camera shy.
Yeah, that's I would say that's common for people in the engineering world.
All right, so we've got someone that we're gonna bring on here that's gonna talk about the launch.
Okay.
All right, go ahead and jump in here.
Do I need one?
No, you can just talk.
Oh, all right, cool.
You might have to stand back a little bit. You're a little tall.
Yeah, I can move it around.
So tell us a little bit about what you were involved with and what it means to you to be able to launch a rocket here at JSC.
Well, I was involved with the avionics, so the brains of the glider, which are not necessarily launching now, but this has honestly been one of the coolest peer-led activities I've ever done in my life, and to go from nothing to having an actual rocket launching in 8 weeks, I think is amazing.
It absolutely is amazing, and what you guys have been able to put together, although it has to be pushed into the fall for our large-scale launch, I think it's amazing, and I think you guys made the right choice of making sure safety comes first, which is something we're really trying to push here at JSC with the new co-term safety initiative, CSI. So tell us a little bit about your background. What are you doing here at JSC?
Well, I am an electrical engineer right now at Stevens Institute of Technology. I'm doing avionics for JSC here, and I plan on coming back for pathways and hopefully one day astronaut. So.
Awesome, that's amazing. So what did you feel when you seen that rocket launch and then the slow separation of the glider, the parachute? What did it feel like?
Oh man, I was so happy. I was so surprised it was stable. That was the best part, because we were unsure if it was going to be stable, which is why we decided to not launch the big one. But then when it was stable, it was an awesome feeling.
Alrighty, well I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. And we're gonna bring in the large scale the glider here. So tell us a little bit about the glider.
So this is kind of a prototype of the glider that we kind of got together and made this semester. Unfortunately, we're not launching this semester. In fact, we're gonna hand over all of the progress that we did on the rocket and the glider to the next semester of interns. This semester we had about 30 to 40 interns working together to create this rocket glider, and we had several sub teams working on other things. Like we had a prototype team. We had an avionics team, payload team, recovery team. Essentially, we had so much manpower that we could spread ourselves out and accomplish a lot of things. But without proper testing of the glide characteristics of this thing, we didn't want to risk accidentally hurting anyone, so we're not launching today. But we are handing this over to the next interns so hopefully they can solve or crack the code, if you will, in order for us to fly this thing. So inside of here, what we have is we have 3 control surfaces, so 2 ailerons and 1 elevator. It's all being controlled through an Arduino Nano. The Nano is controlling a lot of the servos. It's controlling it has an MPU, which is a combination of an accelerometer. It's essentially an IMU gyro, and so it's doing all the Arduino is doing a lot of the flight code. But then we don't have any storage, so we also have a Pi in here. And what we're doing is that we're sending all of the flight data over to the Pi for storage. And we're gonna have a slot here for 2 different cameras. One of them is gonna be a Pi cam. It's gonna be an HD camera that's transmitting the live feed back to ground. And we're also going to have a Pixie camera, which is a special camera sensor developed by Carnegie Mellon and Charms Lab. This camera we're going to use for color detection of the rocket, which is the reason why our rocket is like a very bright orange. So once we detect the rocket, we're going to do an autonomous corkscrew so we can do a quote-unquote inspection of the booster after it detached on the way down autonomously. And that's the goal. And again, it's without proper testing, without getting the right glide characteristics, it's something that we really shouldn't go for at the moment. But given a couple more interns, some more brain power, some more diversity, some more personalities, maybe they can take this glider rocket combination to the next level, and we'll have an actual launch soon.
Well, I don't know about others, but I'm super excited to see this. And I'm super looking forward to it launching in the fall. Will you be here in the fall?
I will not be here in the fall. I'm going back to school to graduate, but I'll be here in spring. If it does launch, I will know. I have to know. This thing is going to be amazing. It's essentially it's a very R&D kind of work, which is like my jam. You know, I love to see this kind of stuff. Nobody's done it, which is why it's hard. We're going to go for what's hard. We're going to try something new, and that's why we're waiting until next semester to launch.
All right. Well, thank you for telling us more about it, and congratulations. Look forward to seeing you back here in the spring.
Thank you.
And will you be making the trip to see this launch?
Yes, definitely.
Perfect. All righty. So we actually have, it looks like some helicopters approaching JSC.
Oh, wow. Should we show it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure
It
what's
looks
up
like
there.
we have a helicopter caravan. Maybe looks like we have a couple of Apaches, and maybe. So we've had a wide variety of aircraft fly over JSC today. We had a couple of F-18s, as you're seeing here, caravan helicopters, as well as the RC variety. RC club. So it looks like we have the Apaches, a Blackhawks, and I don't know the one center's called.
Yeah, it's probably really hard to see on the stream, but that's fine. I think we might have someone come on for another interview. A large part, or actually the entire rocket, most of it was 3D printed, and we're gonna have Adolfo talk about the process right now. Sorry about the camera. Okay. So, there you go. See yourself right there. So, tell me about it. You worked on printing this glider?
Yes. So basically, we printed this glider on a Gigabot, which is about a 2x2 by 2 feet printer. So this middle piece is one by itself. The tail is separate, and the two wings are printed separate. The reason they were all printed separate is we didn't want to use support material underneath the wings, or else the material wouldn't have stuck as well as it does now, and it would have messed with the aerodynamics a little bit. So printing it all separate and epoxying it together was the best method of doing this. So we had two versions of the tail. One was at 45 degrees and the other one was at 90. But since we printed the tail separate, we were able to attach it to the fuselage afterwards and decide which one would cause the flight to be more stable. So both wings are epoxied, and the epoxy probably will never come off unless this crashes. So it's very strong. It's 15% infill. So the likelihood of this breaking, if we drop it, is very unlikely. The wings might break off because they're small and the surface area is small, but the body of the rocket is very sturdy. So that's what we were aiming for. So if you can tell, on the side of the rocket, there are two ports for the camera right here. And those were going to be, as Orlando probably talked about earlier, for the vision system. So those were planned to be at 30 degrees up or down from the wings, depending on where the rocket was. And then the nose cone obviously pops off to allow us to put all the avionics inside. And then something neat about this print is all the fins were printed with the whole print. So these weren't attached after printing. These were printed during the print. And there's little tabs inside that you just break off, and then they just freely move. So that was the benefit of 3D printing, because basically the wings won't break off and the little ailerons won't break off. So it makes the payload a little bit more industrial. And since it's a bit experimental, we kind of wanted to go a little bit more for the robust side. In case it came crashing down, we could possibly reuse it again, but I mean, we won't know yet. That's about it for the 3D printing side. It's made out of PLA, so it's a little bit denser than ABS, which is a little bit stronger, but it was very easy to print. So for the limited time we had, I think it was a pretty nice print. And the layer on their layer detail is pretty good. 15%. So yep, that's about it for the 3D printing. It's really neat technology, and I encourage everyone to learn how to CAD and how to use a 3D printer, because you can make something cool like this.
Alright, thank you.
I got a video. I lost it after that.
And we're going to have another interview for you right now. Can you tell me your name and a little bit about what you do?
I'm Warren Benson. I'm with the NASA Rocket Club here that flies out at Johnson Space Center on a regular basis.
And, thank you so much. Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why we were able to do a launch today, we got to join you and see a lot of nice rocket launches. Yeah, how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this about 18 years, I think. My daughter started out in one of the rocket engineering classes. And they flew out here and
oh, that's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah.
So again, we really want to thank you. Myself, we have to go elsewhere to do this. We have an opportunity to launch here at JSC. Most people get to see it every day, nor do it every day. So yes, just really we appreciate it. We appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you all for coming out. It's good to have a good group like you all come out and do something interesting with rockets. Do something a little different.
And that's why
to see what you're doing with it.
That's why they want to try and get the smaller segment.
Yeah, absolutely. We absolutely encourage people to build their way up in rocketry. Start with the small stuff. Don't take your big one and just destroy it in your first flight.
It's like anything in life, take step by step at a time.
Right, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you again. We appreciate it. And I think we're looking forward to the next launch.
Thanks so much.
Okay. So again, we are live here at JSC. We are behind Building 14 on the old airstrip, and we are in the launch preparation phases for our second launch of the Acorn and Flying Squirrel. This launch will be without the parachute, correct? For the glider, it will be separated.
It's captive. It's another captive. The parachute.
It's attached.
Okay, it's still attached.
Launch 3. If we still have the rocket, launch 3 will, the final launch, which is 3, will be detached.
Sounds good. All right, so we are going to do an interview with Robin Onsley. So tell us a little bit about how this got started and what you've been able to do with it.
Yeah, of course. So last spring, I decided to start the intern rocketry team. I think it's a very valuable part of an internship experience to be able to hack and create and learn different things that you wouldn't normally get to learn in a normal internship. So having a team where you can build something and all come together and create something and learn different skills that you really want to learn, I think was very valuable. And that's kind of why I started it in the spring. We started with a very small team of about 10 people. Our budget was around $200. We launched a large model rocket with some avionics and a camera. And this summer, the rocketry team really exploded, but not in the bad way. We scaled up to about 40 people, and we scaled up to about 40 people. Our budget was close to $1,000, so we really wanted to go bigger, go home, and build a very interesting rocket. So we decided to build a glider, as I bet many of the other people on the team have been talking about and very passionate about. So, having something more complex definitely had a lot more opportunity to learn and grow for a lot of the interns here. And I've heard a lot of feedback that a lot of people had a great experience with learning and growing and working on the different parts of the rocket.
So I have to ask, why the flying squirrel and the acorn?
That's a great question. So, as you know, we're launching the glider, and when it's on top of that rocket, it definitely resembles a flying squirrel. And actually, one of the preliminary designs was a deploying wing, much like a flying squirrel. So, and then the acorn was just secondary because you can't have a flying squirrel without acorns.
Very true. Alrighty, well, thank you again for coming on and giving us an interview with us. And we're looking forward to this launch here really soon.
Yeah, we should be launching in a few minutes here, so thank you very much.
All right, sounds good. We'll let you get going with it.
Thank you. All right, sweet. So we pulled up picture-in-picture again, and we'll switch to the regular launch just now. Actually, we'll switch right now. How about that? And what you are seeing right now is a view of the launch pad once again. The stream is fine. The stream is good, and it should be nice. Is this with the parachute?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is repeating the first launch. But as with spaceflight, just because one thing works doesn't mean that it will the second time. And so we're testing it again for verification and to ensure that our systems are in the proper. And then if I remember correctly, if we have the opportunity to launch a third time, in the third launch, the glider will be separating from it, and we'll be getting some data from that. Most of that will be visual, but with the wind today, we should have a little bit of an opportunity to see some of the aerodynamic forces on the glider, or the flying squirrel. So as you can see on the camera right now, they are putting the rocket on the launch pad. The launch director is checking the wind conditions and the weather conditions and weather patterns for the sun. And it appears we have a clear flight envelope.
It's great right now. Yeah, I was worried we would be getting beaten down by the sun right now, but it's really nice.
It's absolutely beautiful. Although the clouds are out, the clouds are what keeping the temperatures down. And we're really appreciating that the rain has stayed away and allowed us to launch and have some interviews. I think one of the iconic things about JSC is you think of it as the Human Spaceflight Center, because that's what it is. You don't really think about having rocket launches. But the Intern Space Program is showing that it's not just JSC and Lubbock's. We're on countdown currently. 4, 3, 2, 1, and we have launch. Oh, we have a failure at the launch pad. We have confirmation we've had a rocket engine failure. It appears that the first stage has separated into multiple pieces. The recovery team is currently out scourging the wreckage. It looks like we may not be doing a third test today.
Well, it's not too bad. We had a pretty good show so far.
It appears that it may have been the engine itself, not a rocket failure. So we're waiting for the recovery team to bring word back into what exactly the failure was.
And you may be noticing moving the camera a lot. And what we have right now is some really high-tech equipment. Just my laptop and a webcam on top of a water bottle. So that's probably some of the movement you've been seeing.
But sometimes you don't need the most high-tech equipment to be the most elegant.
That's true. This is very, very affordable.
So we have 2 of the recovery teams. It seems that they split into 2 groups, the launch team and the recovery team. The launch team is at the launch pad trying to figure out what happened with the engine failure. And the recovery team has, when the rocket went up, it roughly went up about 30 feet in the air, but part of it stayed within 10 feet of the launch pad. So we currently have the recovery team going out to recover what is left of the first stage in the glider. From the view we have, and from the view you have there on the launch pad, it looks like it had no damage to any of the other launch pads, nor any of the viewers. So that is our #1 priority there, is that safety.
Yeah. It's all really good learning experience, as this whole day has been, actually, I would say. But I think that's probably one of the best things we can take away from this, I think.
And just as the launch director was saying, is you gotta start in a small, and work your way up. And so I think with that, the lesson learned here is sometimes things go exactly as you think they're going to, and sometimes they don't.
That's a good way to put it.
So we can currently see a view of what's left of the first stage. It looks like we had a catastrophic failure just above the tail fins. And we have Robin Onsley bringing it over here for us to give a first-hand look at it. It does look like there's damage to the glider as well as the rocket. We're going to bring him on here and give him a first-hand look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had a bit of a failure here. What we think happened is there was a buckle with a possible engine failure, and right by the engine mount. So that pressure blew out the bottom, and then causing it going into an unstable flight, which also broke off a wing. So, that's why we do these kind of tests, really to see what would happen and where our failures could be.
It's a good thing that was only a third of the size, right?
Oh, definitely. And I think just from what I've been seeing, I don't think it had to do with necessarily the fundamental design of our rocket. As in launching a glider on top of the rocket, I don't think it had anything really to do with it. I think it had more to do with the second launch and the structure of this body tube. So, yeah, and then this is where you can actually see where it blew out. This is attached right like that, so it blew out right there. And then, yeah, we have the carnage from the glider.
So we'll probably be reviewing the video feed there. try and get a better insight into what happened within the failure. But from the view over here, it looked like it was a catastrophic break in the airframe just above where the fins are.
Yeah, we have Venmo. So if you guys don't have cash, you guys
So this again was a launch brought to you by the Intern Space Program here at Johnson Space Center. We are behind Building 14 on the old airstrip. Launch director has cleared the weather conditions and airspace around us, and they are going to be doing another launch. This one not involved with the Intern Space Program, but just another general launch from the people in the community and part of the rocketry world. This one again will be a small-scale launch. Hopefully we don't see what we just saw in a similar fashion. We still have part of the recovery team out in search of pieces of our glider and rocket. It seems like there's a couple critical components that we're missing.
It has a very distinct smell to it of explosives. But that's to be expected.
Was there anything else in this body tube, like motor parts? Michael will still see it.
Are we still streaming?
Good. Put some tape in there.
Yeah, I can't tell if that's tape. Is that the tape? Yeah. Oh, that's just wadding. Yeah, that's all I saw. So we're thinking it also might be a motor failure.
That whole motor, all the insides of the motor blew out the top of it, so they're somewhere. A lot of time, if it catches on fire, then you'll see this fireball come out. So we didn't see that, so it didn't even ignite.
They've got slow motion video over there, so they've been watching it, trying to find where pieces went.
Yeah.
Which is how they're doing recovery at this moment.
Okay.
And someone mentioned to me that they did get a video
Oh boy.
So the launch director has just let us know that this next rocket going up is actually a 2-stage. So we're going to tune in to that video feed. You can see the rocket there on the launch pad. We are getting intermittent video feed, but it seems still to be pretty good. So as the launch director was just saying there, we are taking a look at that engine, and it appears that it was actually possibly a model rocket engine failure. And so what that means is that the structural integrity of the rocket was impacted by the rocket engine's insides not staying within the engine nozzle and progressing into the side of the rocket scale frame. So we're within a minute countdown of this 2-stage rocket launch. The recovery team has been called back in preparations for this launch. We apologize, we are getting some wind feedback, but we're doing what we can here to try and give you the clearest view and the clearest audio.
Guys are clear. Range is clear.
Again, you are hearing the launch director there giving the go for the aerospace is clear. We are countdown 3, 2, 1, and we have a launch hold. Launch director and team are taking a look at the ignition system, and we have restarted the ignition countdown, and we have launch. Separated and is on its way here. Launch gets the wind down, and we have lost the rocket in the sky. We've got it. It is directly over the tower, just on the far side airstrip of JSC. It looks like we have a good shoot, and it looks like we have the second stage as well as the nose cone still attached. Trying to give you a good look of it here, but
pretty hard to see.
Did you catch it on the launch pad?
Yes, we did catch it a lot.
Oh, lowest bidder, right? No, that's what you are.
The sun has decided to come out and break us with its beautiful presence. Temperature has increased a little bit.
Ooh. We're gonna take a behind the screen, get everybody.
We're gonna do a sign off on the screen.
Can I have the mirror? You talking about that, Roger?
Signing off.
Actually, we're gonna
Well, I guess we're gonna
so we're actually gonna be bringing everyone over here, a part of the Intern Space Program, and we're gonna be doing a sign off for today's live launch coverage. We appreciate everyone that has tuned in today, and we look forward to the testing and launching in the fall. We are bringing in the last of the recoveries team over here.
Let's see if I can move this camera a little bit.
I went to school with them. So that's
Here, you tell me where to put it. All right. So this is the team. This is the Intern Space Program. And we are signing off for today here at JSC Building 14.
Just slap it up.
Ship a pan.